Good afternoon and welcome to Tree Talk, episode 154. With myself, Jack Neville, and Matt Callan of the Weekly Observer and Vale Star. It's a bumper episode. We have a hurling across all the grades. We have the Camogie Championship starting this weekend. We had the ladies football starting last weekend. But before we get into any of that, Matt, the Winnikuga fundraiser for Limerick Hurling and Limerick GAA, the entry date is coming to a close at midnight on Friday night is the last time to get your tickets. Only €20, and you could be getting a Cougar. As we said last weekend, if one of us wins it, we'll do the podcast in the Cougar. But maybe a few words from you on just the videos that we've seen, and I suppose the camaraderie in the Limerick players. And it's no surprise that they've won 3 All-Irelands in 4 years.
Yeah. Look, Jack. It's for me. It's payback time from the public, because the glory that we have basked in since 2018, was 5 years ago was unimaginable, Jack. 3 All-Irelands in 4 years, a couple of leagues, 3 months, 3 in a row, Munster championships, a couple of minor championships, and that all costs money. And I honestly think Limerick GAA have been very modest in the number of times and that they ask people to put their hand in their pockets. And I would appeal to everybody out there that hasn't joined or has got a ticket for the Cougar to go and get it today. The closing time for it online is midnight on Friday night, and be in with a chance. And look, we'd all love to win a Cougar, Jack, but only one person can win it. But we all can play our little part in helping to fund the great work that's going on in Limerick GAA at all levels. And we've 2 opportunities to do it, to put our money, as it were, where our mouth is. And as I said, payback time. We can do it through supporting the fundraising Cougar draw, number one, and we can do it on an ongoing basis for a very modest €10 for 10 months in supporting the Club Limerick draw. Because, Jack, there can be no question about it, none whatsoever. Any money that comes into the Limerick coffers, Limerick GAA coffers, is well spent. We can see it. We can see it in terms of silverware. And we all bask when Declan Hannon goes up the steps, or when Adam English goes up the steps for a minor, when Ian Corbett and Donald O'Sullivan go up to take football silverware, which they did twice last year. I would appeal, Jack, to anybody that hasn't got their tickets yet to go out and get them and support them and make it a bumper draw. It's one way of the public telling the players, lads, we're very, very grateful. We're very proud. We're very thankful for what you've achieved. And here's the money for more of the same.
Well, if that doesn't entice you, maybe this short video will, but I can't imagine anyone who won't be buying a ticket after that, Matt.
No, he's still automatics, Here we have this beautiful car. You have a chance of winning at www.winnikuga.ie for €20, and your support is much appreciated. Thank you. Yeah. Like an old farmer. No, Dave, you just lie across the bonnet. Yeah, will you? That banner off. Pitch up the shorts a bit, you know. He's right, pal. Nice car for you to win now. Be lucky. Super Grady. Yeah. Oh, I take it. Accuracy is a bit. It's off, is it? Yeah.
Your hips going that way and your face this way.
Oh, you see them. You see them. Oh my good God.
Why is this face?
You do up though there.
Thanks to all the Limerick supporters for 2021.
I suppose following on from them faces there, a very exciting weekend in the Senior Hurling Championship, and we've so much to get through that we'll try not to dwell on anything too much. And
yeah, I suppose, Jack, it saddens me a bit looking at that footage like that, to think that we haven't seen Graham Mulcahy in the championship yet, but hopefully that will be rectified come the quarter-final stage if Kilmallock make it through to the quarter-final, and that we're not going to see Peter Casey at all.
Yeah, look, and we obviously got disappointing news during the week about Barry Murphy, and we will touch on that later on in the podcast. But
and as a Glenroe man, of course, I would be hoping, I see David Reedy there in the footage, that the Cougar would take him many miles away from Kilfinnan around 1 o'clock on Sunday.
Hopefully, you've definitely nailed your colours to the mast this weekend. But looking at the results from last weekend, we obviously had the thriller between Kilmallock and Ballybrown. Kilmallock 27 points to 220 winners over Ballybrown. Patchwell 321 to 17 over Ahan. Kildare Palace Henry's debut 20 points to 15 winners over Monaleen. Then you had Black Rock beating Garrisplan 119 to 116. And just touching on that first game, and you mentioned they'd know Graham Mulcahy had Kilmallock. Paddy Loughlin is gone for the year, as you know. Ballybrown pushed them so close. They led from the first minute till the 62nd, but it was a lost chance by Ballybrown, and now they're really against us.
Yeah, I suppose that actually sums it up, Jack. Even though I wavered a number of times during the game as to how it might go, because teams that had their spells. Like at one stage in the first half, Ballybrown had raced into a 7 points lead, and they were ticking all the boxes, but Kilmallock hung in there first of all, and then started crawling their way back into the game, and by halftime had reduced the margin to a single point, probably you felt that it probably sowed seeds into what was a very, very youthful Ballybrown team, in that they had 4 of the team that featured in the Premier Minor final last year, and obviously are the holders of 2 medals each. Like you're the like of Ned Quinn, Colin Coughlin, Luke O'Connor, and Aidan O'Connor, and they all made telling contributions in the game now. They might have been the babies of that game, but certainly they made their presence felt. And then when Colin Coughlin got the goal after half time, and they went back into a 6 points lead. At that stage, it was Ballybrown's to lose, and you felt that you could only see one winner. And coming up to the second water break, Jack, they looked as if they were going to hold out. They had still had which you can't say commanding, but they had a 4 points lead going into the water break, and the impetus to drive on. But Kilmallock came back, to be remiss not to mention the performance of Micheál Houlihan, 16 points in the championship. That emulates and equals what Adam English did in the first round against Patrick Swell, and I think that the breakdown was something similar, because I think Micheál got 5 points from play, so he just wasn't a one-trick pony slotting over frees. He made a contribution, but in Kilmallock's hour of need, and of course you mentioned there that Paddy O'Loughlin was missing this year, and that Graham Mulcahy was absent. Also, they suffered a blow in that Dan Joy, who picked up he won an All Ireland under-21 medal in 2017, you will recall. Dan picked up an injury late in the game against Napirsig and wasn't fit to play. Nor was Kevin O'Donnell, but Kevin O'Donnell did, like he did against Napirsig, made a second half appearance at one stage. So, they were down that number of players, but in that hour of need, you need big players to stand up, and that's exactly what happened. I thought Paddy O'Brien had the game of his life for Kilmallock. Now, he was originally named to be wing forward, and probably would have started maybe at wing forward were it not for the injury to Dan Joy. And Dan Joy's failure to make it, to recover in time for the game. And that precipitated Costello being switched from the half-back line to the full-back line, with Paddy O'Brien coming back. Now, obviously, pre-match preparations had gone out the window a small bit for the first 10 minutes because I thought the Kilmallock defence was all over the place in the first 10 minutes. And Ballybrown really capitalised on that. But that's not to say that some of the hurling that Ballybrown played in that opening period, and indeed that they played throughout the game, I suppose, Jack, it is a microcosm, and it's, you know, if you were a stranger and went into the Gaelic grounds and you'd say to yourself, if this is what Limerick hurling is all about, Limerick is in a good place. Limerick hurling is in a rude state of good health. Like Ballybrown obviously will be disappointed, but they'll be disappointed, Jack, that you know that they didn't get the result. But like they have an awful lot to be happy about, Jack, because they have come from Section B to Section A. And on their return to Section A, I suppose by all laws in the world, should have probably got off to a winning start. But for two incredible saves towards the finish by Barry Hennessy. And I mentioned and I alluded to it earlier on about the importance of your big players standing up. Here we had Paddy O'Brien outstanding. But when he was really needed, and when it was put up to him, Barry Hennessy delivered again as he invariably does. And like Ballybrown, Jack, have made the transition from Section B to Section A. Now, there's going to be nothing easy in Section A, but they're going in the right direction. They lost the game. But Ballybrown are on an upward trajectory, and in an irreversible upward trajectory. Now, whether it will be good enough to beat Na Piarsaigh or not, you know, we'll be talking about that in a minute. I'm not so sure. But certainly they have acquitted themselves. They acquitted themselves quite well last Saturday night, I thought. No, and you know, and they'll say, "What's he ranting and raving about? We lost the match," you know. But you must remember where they were coming from. 3 years ago, they were relegated. Then they made no impact in Group B. Like they stormed through Group B last year and got themselves promoted. And the challenge was, how quickly would they settle in their new environment? And the answer was very quickly. Like they came within a point of Kilmallock. You know, and like there was a few little turning points during the game, and a few little errors that Ballybrown made. You know, few little small things. When maybe there was chances there for the taking, and maybe took the wrong options. That could have won the game. They were that close to it. Like they were level in injury time. You can't come much closer than that. And I was hugely impressed. I was hugely impressed by Ballybrown. That is little or no solace to them at the moment. They've lost the match. They're facing the Piarsaigh to stay afloat in the championship. But certainly, if you look at it in terms of Ballybrown's progression, it was a major step, Jack, in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely was a step in the right direction, but like it was a missed chance, because win and they're through after Na Piarsaigh win over Kilmallock, and now they have to beat Na Piarsaigh. Now a 1 point win over Na Piarsaigh will do them, such as their superior goal difference to Kilmallock. But we'll get into predictions in a while. But like they Na Piarsaigh showed against Kilmallock that just how good they are, even without the Casey brothers, and like it's going to be hugely difficult for Ballybrown this weekend.
Yeah, no. The Piarsaigh have a lengthy injury list that against Kilmallock extended to 6, because you had, apart from the two cases, you had Alan Dempsey, you had Adrian Breen, you had Podge Kennedy, and you had Jerome Boylan, all sitting it out through injury. My understanding is that most, if not all of them, will sit it out again against Ballybrown. So that may open a window of opportunity for Ballybrown. But even without that sextet of players, we saw the Piercing left us in no doubt about the strength of what they have, and those coming through, and like, you know, they were talking about that they were robbing their intermediate team, which they promoted 3 or 4 players in the absence of those, and those that are injured, and subsequently lost to Effin, but they atoned for that last week with a big win over Kilmallock in the intermediate championship. So, you know, they're still, the conveyor belt is still well oiled in the Piercing. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Ballybrown, but I think Ballybrown will have learned considerably from the game against Kilmallock. And if you take Kilmallock and Blackrock last weekend, they went into the game last weekend having lost the previous week, Jack. And suddenly the dynamic of the championship had totally changed, and they were now in a knockout situation. And I know we'll be talking about Blackrock later, but we saw how they responded. Like, is that a possibility that Ballybrown could pull one off here? I wouldn't totally discount it.
No, I wouldn't discount it, but it certainly seems unlikely on the law of averages. But that's Section A. That's Group 1 of Section A, and I'll put up the groups in a minute once you finish with Group B. But in Group B, you talked about responding there. Kilmallock, Patrickswell responded in style against the hand, 321 to 17-point winners. The game was as good as over after the first quarter. Patrickswell seemed to go for goals early and were afforded huge space inside there. And Aaron Gallan twice and Thomas O'Brien made no mistake. From what I can see, Patrickswell are through just with the goal difference that's there. And a hand have to beat Doon, have to beat them well to get through now as a result of that. Firstly, on a hand's performance, their debut performance, like we praised Ballybrown, there was probably very little that a hand could take from that game coming into Doon.
Yeah, I suppose we both favoured Patrickswell for the reason that first of all, because they're Patrickswell, and we know what they can bring, and we also know about the big three and how they can influence games. And like, if we had any doubt, twas reconfirmed to us at the weekend. But their situation wasn't ideal going into the Doon game with the incident with Kevin O'Brien prior to the throw-in. Yeah. And I don't know whether you'd say, Jack, I know you said they went for goals. I don't know whether it was goals or the juggler, but whatever it was, it certainly worked, and they set out to dent a hand's confidence right from the start, and by God did they do it. And like, not only did they relaunch their campaign, and you know, win their way back into the championship, you know, Jack, they're contenders from what we saw last Sunday.
Were they ever not contenders though, really?
Well, you know, you'd be asking yourself after the first round, they lost to Doon. You know, maybe the big three hadn't as big an influence as they normally would have had, and you'd be saying to yourself, you know, what's the story with the Well? But the story with Patrickswell is that they are contenders, and strong contenders. And like, you know, the way they disposed of a hand, like, was clinical, it was efficient, and we spoke last week, wondering to what extent, and we spoke about Limerick during the course of the summer, to what percentage they were extended in the game. I certainly think there's another notch or two in Patrickswell, because I honestly think that you know, They certainly didn't step on the gas to the same extent as they're capable of in the second half. I think they just switched into containment mode and saw the game, and it leaves a hand in a very, very difficult situation, facing into Doon. I have to say, Jack, that for the most part, I was disappointed with a hand. Disappointed with their performance. Now, Tom Morrissey aside, absolutely, Tom did everything that could be expected of a human being to fight, to hold back the tide. I was just wondering why the placing of Dan Morrissey at midfield. One of the country's best defenders. I would have thought maybe, but obviously Mahan management know best themselves, that he would be handed a defensive role when you have two of the best forwards in the country in the blue and gold, Patrick Swelling, Cian Lynch and Aaron Gallan. So I was disappointed for a hand, and disappointed with him. They'll know themselves. They don't need to be reminded that it was a poor performance. You go out in the first round of the championship and you lose by 13 points. You're scrambling for positives after that. But I have no doubt that if there's any consolation to them, like Kilmallock lost the first round by 10 points, and Blackrock lost the first round by 16 points, I think.
Yeah,
and they bounce back, so they're capable of bouncing back, and but whether it's too late now, I would imagine they need a huge turnaround. I don't know if you have the graph there, Jack, or that we can see the table, but it needs a massive turnaround. You see there it needs them. They need to win by what?
7.
Well, of course, if they win by 7 points,
no, they need to win by 8. By 8. 7 points would put them both on -6. I don't know how that would work there. Probably 4, and Doon will be ahead in the 4 category there.
If they win by 8, Jack, you're right. They'll go to -5, and Doon will go to -7.
Yeah.
And Doon could conceivably cascade into the relegation, which after that first round win against Patrickswell was unthinkable. So look, there is just a little window there that they could exploit now, and we'll be talking about the Barry Murphy situation. I suppose we might as well talk about it now. Is that we've had the unfortunate news during the week is that Barry is going to be out long term, which is unfortunate, hugely unfortunate. First of all, Jack, for himself, for Barry Murphy himself, for Doon, and indeed for Limerick, because he's a crucial he's a crucial part of both squads, but it's for the guy himself in particular, and this is what we should never lose sight of. We can get carried away by the loss to Doon and the dust to Limerick, but you must think of the guy himself, and the hopes that he had entertained and hope for this year, and I think he was the Doon captain as well. So, I'm so sorry for Barry, and just wish him the very best of luck. Now, Mikey O'Brien is also nursing an injury since the last day. You will recall he went off in the game against Patrickswell, and Mikey would be, Mikey is part of what looks a very, very strong Doon half-back line, along with Darrow Donovan and Richie English.
3 intercounty players.
Yeah, So were he to be missing, you see, it changes the whole dynamic of the game with a hand. And you'll have a wounded hand coming into this game now. You'll have a hand coming into the game with the great tradition that they have over the years. And of course, you have the unseen factor in this game that you or I probably mightn't be aware of. the little dynamic that go on between rivals in the one division and neighbours over there.
Yeah.
You know, these little things, and then talking to one or two of the Doon connections after the Patrick Swell game, were they one of them made that point very forcibly to me when I suggested that they had a real good chance of advancing at top of the group now, and he certainly wasn't discounting. A hand, but if those two players are missing, it certainly opens a little bit of a window for a hand, because they will be a huge loss to Doon. No question about it.
Yeah, massive losses.
But you'd have to think, you see, how will Doon or how will a hand cope with Adam English? That will be one of the big questions. And how will they cope with Pat Ryan? If Pat Ryan reproduces the form that he produced against Patrick Swell when he was absolutely outstanding. So those two are still around, but it's not going to be easy from a hand. It depends on how they react to the defeat by Patrick Swell. If they can search for positivity out of it, find it. You know, you never know. Like, an 8-point winning margin, Jack, it's not massive in a game of hurling.
No, it isn't. And
when you have a guy like Tom Morrissey around who can score, make no mistake about it.
Score.
Anything can happen. I personally, before you come to the predictions, I don't think it will happen. But I think this one could be a bit of a nail biter now.
Yeah, it could be. Look, I can't wait to see Adam English play again. You mentioned Pat Ryan, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Doon do with Tom Morrissey, because Chris Thomas obviously marked Keane Lynch very well in the first day, and I'd love to see that matchup. But look, invariably we could see a situation where it's Doon and the Piercy in the relegation final if things go various ways. But look, we probably won't, but that's all speculation. We'll talk more when we get into predictions. Then into Section B, Kildimo Palace-Kenry made a successful return to the senior ranks after more than 20
before you
years.
go away from relegation in Division 1, we were spectacularly wrong, Jack, last week when we hinted, which it was a possibility, of course, that Patrick Swell and Kilmallock would be in the relegation.
Yeah, well, to be fair, we both went for Swell to win. I actually went for Ballybrown to win, so it was worse for me than for you. But on Kildimo Palace-Kenry, I'm not sure if Kildimo Palace as an amalgamation ever played in the senior ranks, but Kildimo were there 70 years ago, and they're back, and they were back with a bang. And I was in the Gaelic rounds, and it was a 5-point margin in the end. It could have been a lot more, could have been less. They could have lost the game because they went 20 minutes without a score, but they were 11 ahead after 50 minutes. And they seemed at their ease as well. Kyle Hayes and Darren O'Connell were inside in the full forward line, and you'd feel sorry for Monaleen having to deal with that. But the two boys were relatively quiet for their standards for two inter-county players. Kyle Downs was exceptional around the field. Kildimo had brilliant players around, and they set up a final day clash with Adair this weekend. The winner goes through to quarter-final. The loser's season is over. Monaleen are obviously into relegation final. It's been a very disappointing year for them, and it could even get worse. But just on KP and Adair, it's a mouth-watering tie.
It's absolutely mouth-watering, and I'm not surprised that it has come to this, actually, Jack, because I was firmly of the conviction coming into the game that Kildimo Palace-Kenry would make the seamless transition from Premier Intermediate, because this Kildimo Palace-Kenry odyssey and story is built on very, very solid foundations, Jack. For the reasons that we spoke last week. And I'm just wondering now, what will a first win in the senior championship at the first attempt do for them? This is a major, major, major boost to Kildimo Palace-Kenry. Whether it'll be enough to beat Adair or not, I'm not so sure. But Adair were very, very, very convincing winners over Monaleen probably of the two far more convincing than Kildimo Pallaskenry for the reasons that you see and what you said, Jack. Sorry, and you actually saw the game.
Yeah.
So, they're like very, very, very interesting. This will it be the first time that Willie Griffin will be playing against his former club?
I would imagine so.
I think it
very
will.
low grade when he left.
And I heard people saying that down in that neck of the woods, it's been dubbed the Willie Griffin Derby. So.
Well, one thing is for sure, Kildimo Palace are definitely going to have to get to grips with Willie, because he'll score all day if you let him. He's one of the best scorers in the senior championship for the last 8-10 years, realistically. And like Kildimo Pallaskenry do have markers, and like Peter Nash was left to sweep the last day. If I had him in defence, I'd have him as a natural athlete to man mark Willie Griffin. But there's so many matchups around the field, realistically. Like, you could have John Fitzgibbon and Kyle Downs in midfield. Like, Ronan Connolly will probably be assigned to Kyle Hayes. Will Jody Hannon have to pick up Darren O'Connell like at the other end? Then who's picking up Declan Hannon?
That's the big
Mark
question.
Connolly. Like, there's so many battles.
Yeah.
I think it's the game of the round. Like, I know it's only in Section B, but I think it's the game of the round. I think like whoever comes through will go into a quarter-final, and whoever they'll be facing, they'll be with a right shout, and I think they will be the team to break the mold to break that final four. But for me, it's the tide around 6 o'clock on Sunday in the Gaelic Grounds. And just while we're on it, all the games this weekend will be streamed live by Limerick GAA TV, and it's brilliant to have that option, because there's so many games clashing. Just the nature of the beast in a COVID year, but just all the games are going to be streamed is brilliant.
Yeah, but of course, they are getting back to there in Kildimo Pallaskenry. The Adair Pallaskenry now is a full-blooded knockout championship game.
Yeah,
because both of them had beaten Monaleen, and that is going to focus minds differently. Now, we spoke of how competent and how efficient Kildimo Pallaskenry were in the group stages since they were promoted way back in 2017 as intermediate champions. Like how well they adapted, particularly to the group stages of the Premier Intermediate Championship. But now, after just one game, they're into a full-blooded knockout game. It's for all the world the last 16 game.
Yeah,
with the winner going through to the quarter-final. So you'll be coming for predictions shortly. I can tell you I'll be going with Adair, I think.
Don't be giving away the answers to people. They'll be waiting for the end, you see. We can come to that in a while. Obviously, then in Section B, Group 1, you have the meeting of South Liberties and Gary Spillane. South Liberties were big winners the first day, very impressive. Last weekend, Gary Spillane got off to a losing start, 119 to 116 against Blackrock. Like on the basis of that, South Liberties had 16 points to spare over Blackrock. Blackrock beat Gary Spillane by 3. Like, on paper, it's an easy win for South Liberties. But as you said before, when it's a knockout game for Gary Spillane, they need a big win to get through. But it is possible. And I'll just put up the permutations there so that we know what the story is. What did we say? Did Gary Spillane?
They need a 1 point win. They need a 1 point win to avoid relegation and send Blackrock into the relegation. And they need a 10-point win to top the table.
But I remember last year, it was South Liberties group. They were with Maru Boher and Monaleen, and they won the first day and only got through by virtue of results elsewhere. But they seem to be a better team this year. It's South Liberty. First of all, Blackrock's win over Gary Spillane, they showed great heart in that game because Gary Spillane got off to a very good start. And the Paddy Leahy show down the end with their final 4 scores in a 3-point win says it all, really.
Yeah, Paddy was outstanding. And before he starts shouting at the podcast, I owe him a pint since the day of the Munster final. And tis on the brew, Paddy. Paddy was outstanding, but I like Blackrock and I spoke earlier in this podcast about leaders in the context of Kilmallock. Blackrock have joint captains this year, Paddy Leahy and Kevin Palmer. I thought both of them were absolutely outstanding and led from the front. Now, quite honestly, like you mentioned there, like they lost the first round by 16 points. You know, and we were talking about a hand, like, could they turn it over? It can be done. Kilmallock lost the first round by 10 points and they turned it around in the second round, because the second round in this truncated version takes on a whole new dynamic. It takes on the dynamic of a knockout championship game. You know?
Yeah,
and there is no room for error. Now, I was out at that game, Jack, and I have to say that whilst I was impressed with the manner in which Blackrock went about their business, I was disappointed with Garryspillane. When I saw the Garryspillane lineup, it had the nucleus of players that were part of one or two of their successful Premier Minor Hurling winning championship teams of 2017 and 2018, which you would imagine 5 and 4 years on now would be their time to make the transition.
Yeah,
I was very impressed with the way that the way that they set out their forward sextet, and they set them out as they were on the program. The 4 of those minors that I spoke to you about were on the wings, and right in the centre, providing the spine for them, were old campaigners like James Ryan at centre forward and Kieran Hickey at full forward. But as a unit, they only got through in fits and starts. They only got going in fits and starts. It was like a car running in damn bad petrol, Jack. Dirty petrol or dirty diesel. It was they were huffed and they puffed and they went into a 4 points lead and they were 2 points ahead at half time. Now they had the aid of a breeze. It wasn't much more than a 2 point breeze, to be honest. But straight after half time, Paddy Leahy and Kevin Palmer got 2 points each to reclaim the lead. And then we had a fine goal from Garryspillane from Mark Quindon, who was playing at right half back. Came up all the way from the back, carried it up along the right, worked his way in, and put it in past Richie Murphy. Dylan O'Shea immediately added a point, and you said to yourself, right, yeah, this is it. Garryspillane have found their groove, but no, they didn't. Blackrock came back again, and it's credit to Blackrock, Jack. It has to be that they didn't allow him set into a pattern or set into a rhythm. And like it is worrying for Garryspillane. Now, it may not be enough at the end of the day to save Blackrock's bacon, but at least it definitely prolonged it right until next Friday evening. Now they face what is a rejuvenated, has to be a rejuvenated South Liberty side. And we spoke about at the outset of the competition about the addition of Anthony Nash and the impact that he would make, and he certainly made that impact. And I suppose it's fair to say that he's not going to stop making the impact anytime soon.
No, he won't.
He will be the same influence come next Friday evening, and like they have a powerful midfield pairing in Barry Nash and Thomas Ryan, you know, and they have a very good sprinkling of experienced hurlers and hurlers that have played that little bit with the county at minor at underage level. Conor McSweeney at centre back, you know, and Ryan Nash in the corner. I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game for Garryspillane. I think they will have to pull out something special.
Yeah, and I'll get to your predictions in a while, but that's enough on the senior grade for a while. The Shellmaker is commenting there, the Green Diesel is a shocker. She says, there's a comment here. I'd imagine it's from a Mungret man. Will John Kylie's head be turned by the goal scoring prowess of Niall Mulcahy? Niall got his 4th goal over the weekend. Mungret St. Paul's made it 2 from 2, and I just want to get the tables up here. As I said, Mungret St. Paul's 2 from 2. They beat Cappamore at the weekend. In that group this weekend, Mungret take on Knockany and Cappamore play Maru. Now, with the draw between Knockany and Maru Boher at the weekend means that any of the teams can join. Mungret are through, they'll top the group, that's a guarantee. But any of the teams can join them. We'll go through that more when we get to our predictions. Then in the other side, then in Group 2, Newcastle West made it 2 from 2 with a win over your own Glenrue. Newcastle play Bruff in their final game. Bruff need a win to avoid relegation. And then Drumnathlacka and Glenrue is pretty much a straight shootout. And as I said, we'll get to that in a while with predictions, Matt. But just on Newcastle, I suppose, and Mungret, just have 2 from 2 in a competition like that says a lot for the teams. And you have to say they're the farm teams and the teams that are likely to meet in the final.
Yeah, they are, and they'll avoid each other now in the semi-finals.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Newcastle are guaranteed to finish top.
They are. Because they have the head-to-head in Cappamore.
Oh, they do. No, yeah, they have the head-to-head and Drumnathlacka and Glenrue. You're right there. Yeah, they'll top the table.
Yeah. So, I suppose taking Mungret St. Paul's first and your contributor there, 4 goals in 2 games. It speaks volumes, obviously, for Niall Mulcahy, who's obviously banging form. Whether John Kiely will take note or not, no, I don't know. As John Kiely would say, that's above our pay station, I think.
Yeah.
To speculate on that. But, look, it is. And I think what's very, very important for Mungret going into this championship, they had a huge win over Maru Boher in the opening round, and they got a right stern test from Cappamore in round 2 and came through it, and that must be very, very pleasing for the management team out in Mungret, that that they can take it either way when the challenge is laid down to them, that they can respond. And like Cappamore probably are one of the surprise teams of the year, because last year they didn't show much signs of doing what they're doing this year, because they're on the threshold of getting into the semi-final. And were they to get through to the semi-final, they will be playing Newcastle West. So that would be a very, very, very interesting tie. But there are a series of permutations out there. Cappamore could conceivably end up in relegation.
Yeah, that group 1, anything can happen. Bar Mungret top group, the other 3.
Where Maru Boher to beat Cappamore and Knockany beat Mungret, then it's Cappamore will be on 2 points, and Knockany and Maru Boher will be on 3 points.
Yeah, it's a minefield in Premier Intermediate Championship. And look, I have there's stuff on the website with how things stand, permutations, everything. Just because we can't get through everything today, and we'll talk more when we get to predictions as well. We'll invariably be talking more about these games. But just a run through of the results from the rest of the championships in the Intermediate Championship. Croom 123 to 13-point winners over Hospital Herbertstown. That puts Croom through. The Pierce League 319 to 113 winners of Kilmallock, bouncing back. Now Kilmallock play Effin in the final round. Grana Ballingarry 219 to 314 winners over Tournafulla. Grana Ballingarry advance into knockout stages. Tour are into the relegation. And Knockaderry beat Fiona 117 to 115. And then moving into the Junior A, 12 results. Fianna 21 points to 11 winners over Skeeton. I was at that game. It was a very good, very intense game of hurling. Mungret St. Paul's made a 2 from 2, 119 to 12 winners over Doon. Patcheswell had a big win over Monaleen, 617 to 12. Kilteeny Drumkeen made a 2 from 2, 621 to 313 winners over Gary Spillane. Monaghay beat a hand, 220 to 116. St. Kieran's got a first win of the season, 212 to 15 points winners over St. Pat's. Ballybrick and Boramore, 217 to 116 winners over Drumbrodford. Caherline got a second successive win, 26 points to 211 overall Christians. Cricora got a first win of the season, 21 points to 115 over Temple Lenton. Raquel beat Staker Wallace 216 to 110. Casttown Ballygran got a second win, 120 to 113 over Claghon. And Ballybrown beat Killeedy 116 to 38. Now, I have it that 6 teams have won 2 games. I don't have that off the top of my head. Look, we won't go too much more into that, Matt. Just with
you spared me of the Premier Group 2, where it is clear cut. In that Newcastle West have won the group.
Yeah.
Brough are into the relegation. Even if they beat Newcastle West, it won't be enough, because both Glenroe and Drummond Clacker have the head-to-head on them.
Yeah.
And it's a straight shootout between Glenroe and Drummond Clacker for that second place. A draw will take Drummond Clacker through by virtue of 2 points, if you look at it.
Yeah, looking at it now, you're right there. But I was going to get into that with predictions, but you have it there.
All right. All right. No,
I don't. It's just it's the same as the Adair Kildare Palskinnery game, that Drummond Clacker versus Glenroe game, and I presume I'm going to know where your prediction goes there. But that's our hurling action. We'll be back talking about it at prediction at the end of the podcast. If we've missed anything, apologies. Just to give ourselves a break, Matt, I'm going to show another clip to promote the Cougar, and we'll be back then to talk about the Senior Camogie Championship.
Looking for your support again, folks, with our fundraiser for Winnikuga, and we want you to visit winnikuga.ie.
Oh, Finn! Come out, Tony, come out.
I didn't think that 57-inch would be made for 2, Johnny. Hooks and blocks only.
Where'd you buy the ticket, Sam?
Good question, Johnny. Did you answer that?
What kind of a car is it again, Sam?
Fordcougar.ie, isn't it?
How much are the tickets, Sam? How much are the tickets, Sam?
20 quid, I know the answer to that.
It'd be great to drive it up in Croker.
Thanks to Lions of Limerick for their continued support to Limerick GAA.
What's the electric on? What bar that?
No, another insight there into the Winnikuga. I suppose this weekend, Matt, we have the beginning of the Neville's Jewelers Limerick Senior Camogie Championship. All the Camogie Championships getting underway this weekend. No relations of mine before you ask, but 3 games down for decision. I'll just get them up here just so people can see. All the games on Sunday at 11:30, which I suppose is an unfortunate way that you can't get to. You're going to get to one, but you have Newcastle West versus Han in Newcastle. It's a repeat of the 2019 final. Cricora versus Brough in Cricora, and then you have last year's champions Killeedy against Granagh Ballingarry on Sunday as well. So just looking outside of that, then you obviously have not playing this weekend. You have Brough, you have Na Piarsaigh that aren't playing this weekend. Just early form, Matt, like last year's champions Killeedy, would they be your favourites again? Obviously Newcastle have been thereabouts in recent years as of a hand, and Granagh Ballingarry. Or could you see last year's intermediate champions Brough go back to back?
Yeah, I saw Brough last year, and they had a great county final with Cappamore in the intermediate championship. At that stage, they didn't know that they would be playing senior this year, because the format last year was that the intermediate champions would not be promoted, but they made their case since, and rightly so, because they've quite a lot of players out in Brough, and quite a lot of quality players, as you can see from the number that are in or around the senior squad, and they're actually fielding a second team down in the at junior level. So it's like if you take if you take participation with the county teams as the benchmark and as the criteria, like it's Killeedy's to lose, because they've had so many players that have made a huge contribution through the year at senior and at junior level to Limerick Camogie, and they will have benefited from that. But equally so, Newcastle West have quite a number of players that have played senior, and of course a couple of leading players that have played senior, plus the fact that you must remember that Newcastle West will be able to call on Rebecca DeLee this year, which they were unable to do last year because she was out with that unfortunate injury. So that's a huge boost to Newcastle West. It's mouth-watering, Jack. There are some excellent games that we cannot discount. You can never discount Granabel and Gary. You know, although, you know, and I hear that Fiona Hickey is going to return a grand return, our 2014 All-Ireland winning captain. So there are some very, very interesting games down for decision at the weekend, but it'll take a week or two for the whole thing to settle down. But Jack, it has been a momentous week for Limerick Camogie. It's a week in which they have made giant strides in that they were in the position to announce that they had got individual sponsors for their 3 main championships. And as you rightly said, Neville's Jewelers in the Crescent Shopping Centre are on board for the senior championship. You have Niche Sports Data, who are coming on board for the intermediate, and you Pat Ryan Financial Services coming on board for the junior championships. And you say to yourself, there's a familiar name. Yes, it is. It's Pat Ryan, the now former Limerick senior and junior manager who was manager for the last 12 months, but is stepping away this year because of the level of business commitment in setting up his own business. But amidst all that, he's put his hand in his pocket and he's come on board to support the junior championship. So it was a very, very positive week for Limerick Camogie, and of course they have the perennial partners, the perennial supporters, and the perennial sponsors in Fitzgerald's Woodlands House Hotel, who have been ever present with Limerick Ladies Sport, and full credit to them as well. So it has been an eventful week, and let's hope that the action that we'll get on Sunday morning will match that, because there are 3 very, very attractive ties down there for decision. You have Newcastle West against the Han, you have Crocora against Bruff, and you have Killeedy opening the defence of that title against Granabel and Gary. Now, I suppose the pick of the round, and you know, no apologies, I suppose, for saying this, has to be the 2018 and the 2019 champions meeting in a repeat of what was the 2019 final.
Yeah.
And Newcastle West, of course, were defeated finalists last year. So that may be the pick of the round. And as you rightly said, we see how will Bruff adapt to life at senior level. I suspect pretty good, because, you know, the Marion Quaids, the Niamh Ryans, the Lorraine McCarthy's of this world, the Katie Finns, you know, the big names are there. So it should be an exciting time for Bruff. And then, of course, you have Killeedy and I suppose taking on the queens of Limerick Camogie, Granabel and Gary, like, who've done it all before. So, like, certainly the draw has thrown up a very, very attractive start to the competition, Jack.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to ask you now, Matt, to predict all the games. I won't include it in our little competition at the end, because I just won't. There's too many to keep track of then. But like,
are you shocking making predictions yourself, Jack? Is that it?
No, I make predictions as well. I won't be keeping tracks of these ones, because you're the master.
You want me to be the Kevin Barry?
Well, I can make predictions if you want, but I am invariably wrong. But Newcastle at hand, do you fancy?
I fancy Newcastle West.
And then Crocora, Bruff, the meeting of the last two intermediate champions.
Yeah, I'm going with Bruff. There's momentum with him. I liked what I saw in the county final last year. When I look at that panel, I think it's strong. It's strong. I think they're in the right place. The fact that they sought to be promoted and it was granted, I think was the right decision. I'm going with Bruff to get off to a winning start.
I'll go Crocora then, just to go against you. But I do agree that looking at the squads, Bruff do have a very strong squad. But maybe that year at senior last year for Crocora, even though it didn't pan out as they wanted, will just give them that added advantage. And then obviously last year's champions to start with a win is what I'm going for.
Yeah, I'm going with you on that one. I'm going for Killeedy on that one. It's very, very hard to oppose them. Like the names roll off your tongue like the Valerie Shanahans and the Cunninghams and the Aisling Scanlon, Calvin Milan. You know, vast experience in that side. So I'm going for Killeedy.
Yeah, and obviously the intermediate and junior B championships kick off this weekend as well. We'll have all the fixtures on the website like closer to the time. They're all on Sunday again. Look, we'd go through every game if we could at all possible. We try to keep this as close to an hour as we can. We're already at the hour mark. We haven't even got into the ladies football or the predictions, and I think I glossed over it there just on Pat Ryan. Obviously a huge thanks to be sponsoring the competition, but he's really reinvigorated Limerick Camogie over the last, I suppose, 8 or 9 months. Obviously the juniors weren't allowed play in 2020. Mm-hmm. The seniors didn't pick up a win, and it was probably a bit of an unknown quantity Camogie in the county before Pat's arrival, and he's certainly changed the fortunes, and we're really looking forward to 2021 now for Limerick Camogie.
Yeah, and he was very Jack. He was very near the senior quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Like if you take that day in Newcastle West with that Wexford penalty, with literally the last puck of the game, and to win the game, and the good win against Offaly. Now, I had a suspicion talking to Pat during the year that it might come to this, that he could be for a 1-year term. But I thought there towards the end of the year that he would have got a great incentive with the way that with the way the championships eventually finished out, and people would probably say, what's he ranting about? We won nothing, but certainly our backs were to the wall when we went to Offaly. We had to win the game or face relegation, won it in style, and it hurts me to talk about the junior championship because we were beaten by Armagh, who shouldn't have been in the competition, because they won the junior championship last year and should have been promoted. Themselves and Wexford Intermediates contested the final last weekend, but we certainly for long periods, Jack, put it up to Armagh and were very unlucky not to beat Armagh. So I would have thought that might have jerked Pat into changing his mind about going away from it, but obviously he has business commitment, and he has been involved in the financial world for quite a while as an employee for a long time with Bank of Ireland, including a stint in Belfast. And now that he's going out into the great big financial world on his own, I suppose it's understandable, like that he has come to this conclusion and is taking that decision. And we would like to first of all say thanks to him for the type of cooperation that he gave to each and every one of us that are covering games, as you know, Jack. He made himself so available and at all times, and wish him the very best of luck with his future business enterprise.
Yeah, we certainly do. And look, as you said, it's early days in the Camogie Championship. It's not even early days; it hasn't even started. But this Sunday, it's all kicking off. Check the website over the next coming days for fixtures for all the championships. And best luck to all the teams. Look, everyone is starting from scratch, and we've seen some shocks in the senior football and senior hurling. So hopefully we can see more of the same in the Camogie, which kicks off this weekend. Before we get into the football, Matt, I have a couple of these Cougar teasers. I might as well throw them all out because this time next week, hopefully we'll be inside the Cougar ourselves. But before we get into the ladies' football, we'll have another teaser for this Winnikuga. I know people are probably sick of it now at this stage, but they're fun to watch, I think.
Back and sit. And you're even more like turned away.
Oh yeah.
You're not talking to them and they're not talking to you.
Hello everybody, we at Limerick GAA just like to thank you for your continued support, especially now during the current COVID-19 epidemic. Here we have this beautiful car. You have a chance of winning at www.winnikuga.ie for €20, and your support is much appreciated. Thank you.
Cheers, lads.
2 green.
2 green and 1 red. 2 green and 1 red. Who's green?
Oh lads, there's a couple of yellows in there as well.
We kind of do it as a conversation. Yeah, so I just said that and you said something, that you go, I think what's the something?
You mind that lovely car?
It'd be a lovely car to drive to Croke Park, lads, wouldn't it?
And it's hybrid too, so it's good for the environment.
Go green for Limerick.
Yes.
We're doing it, go on.
No, it's there, Donovan.
Jack, I'm surprised that you think that anybody would get tired of looking at anything that those boys would be up to. They have given us so much pleasure, and all embellished, of course, with words of wisdom from the one and only Donald O'Grady.
And I suppose I think it's just a nice segue to go from different sections, and we move on now to the Tridental ladies football championships that kicked off over the weekend, and I'll have all the fixtures up in a minute. But just I suppose starting with the senior championship, and you obviously had that tie of St. Ailbe's versus Ballylanders, which was the final 2 years ago, like a real mouth-watering tie, ended as a draw, probably no real surprise. And on the other side of the draw, then you had Fiona Castleman 7-20 to 1-1 winners over St. Bridget's, and it doesn't get easier. St. Bridget's with Monaghay to come. They're obviously in a bye weekend, and then the All Mill were in a bye weekend this weekend. But that championship, Matt, there's 6 teams in the senior championship. They all go through to the knockout stages. The top teams from each go into the semi-final, and then the next 2 play each other in the quarterfinals. I suppose on St. Ailbe's 2-10 to 3-7 against Ballylanders. Again, no real surprise. 2 of the best going against each other, and it kind of gives a taster what's to come in the Tridental Ladies Football Championship.
Yeah, there's a couple of points I'd make before I delve into those individual games, Jack. First of all, as we know, it had announced during the week that 3 officers of the Limerick Ladies Football County Board had stepped down. Don Hennessy, the chairperson, Larry Mason, the vice chairperson, and Colin Maloney, the secretary. And again, like you and I in our jobs would have had interaction with them in the past, and we'd like to wish them the best of luck and to thank them for their cooperation and their help over the last number of years. And welcome on board. PJ Kiley from St. Bridget's is the new the new chairperson, and we would wish him the very, very best of luck. He's flanked by 2 very familiar faces who know Limerick ladies football inside out. In Siobhan McCarthy is coming in as I understand as temporary secretary. She has held the position before. Anybody that knows anything about ladies football know about Siobhan, of course, who is the mother of Limerick captain Neve, and Breda Hearn, a long time PRO of Limerick ladies football, is coming in as vice chairperson. So we wish the 3 of them the very, very best of luck in the task that they're taking on in what has been a decent week for Limerick ladies football, in that they have got a sponsor on board to sponsor all their championships. Tridental will be sponsoring all their championships. And you must remember, Jack, in this day and age and in these challenging times post pandemic, if we're still posted, or if we're have reached that stage yet, sponsors don't grow on trees. You don't pick them up on the side of the road. All businesses have been through very, very, very challenging times. And so it's wonderful to see the three businesses that are coming on with the Camogie, so with Limerick Camogie and Tridental coming on with Limerick Ladies Football. It's great to see them, putting their hands in their pockets and supporting the sport. And just another thing I like, and you'd say, what am I waffling about? But there seems to be a very, very good structure to ladies sport and the ladies championships this year, in that last week we had a clear run for the first round of the ladies football, and this weekend we have a clear run for the first round of the Camogie Championship. And I understand that is the blueprint going forward every second week, ladies football and Camogie, and both organisations in Limerick, if they adhere to that, they are to be commended for doing it, because it is a blueprint. Now, looking at the results last weekend, and we didn't get an opportunity to preview them. Obviously, the big game of the weekend, like there are 6 teams in the championship, Jack. 2 groups of 3. Nobody's going to be out of it after the round robin. And the top team in each group will go through to the semi-final. The teams finishing second and third will cross over from 1 to 2, and play in quarterfinals. Now, we had a great start in Group 2, in that 2 of the probably the heavy hitters of Limerick ladies football in recent years, 2 of the 3 or 4 heavy hitters, but St. Ailbe's, who are seeking 3 in a row this year, and Ballylanders met and played out a draw. And I understand it was actually the champions, St. Ailbe's, who came from behind to force a draw. And just talking about St. Ailbe's briefly, and the defence of that title, they will be defending that title this year without a hugely influential key player in Caroline Hickey, who is abroad at present, and working abroad, and it will certainly be a huge loss. It was a huge loss to Limerick, and is indeed a huge loss to St. Ailbe's. Now, in Group 1, Jack, and like yourself, I haven't delved behind the reasons for it, but we had a very, very lopsided game between Fiohanna Castlemahon and St. Bridget's. It was 7-20 to 1-1, and you rightly flagged at the start there that obviously St. Bridget's, as losers, will now be facing in the second round. It's not going to get easier, because it'll be last year's runners-up and the previous year's winners, Monaghay, that they're facing. So that is not going to be a very palatable very, very palatable experience. Now, as far as I'd be concerned, the jury is out. Where St. Bridget's without a number of key players, because I've seen it at first hand over in this part of the county that St. Bridget's, recent years, like Jack, they have made the transition from foundation to be, right up through the ranks, junior champions, intermediate champions, and now competing at senior level. And it would appear from the outside anyway that the structures of that club are very, very strong in the amount of devotion that they have to the promotion of underage and what have you. So it was the first thing that struck me when the results started coming in on Sunday evening, that what was this all about? And I was wondering for a while whether it was a misprint, but it certainly wasn't. But obviously I'll be probing into to find out. I have to imagine that they were without some key players, or else you wouldn't have got that type of lopsided score.
Yeah, look, I suppose I have to wait and see. But again, even if they were without players against Monaghay in the second round, it's still losing is still probably the most likely outcome. But if they were missing players, hopefully they'll be back for the knockout stages. As you rightly said, it's going to be every second weekend. So this week it's going to be Camogie, next weekend is ladies football, and that's a perfect way to do it, because there's such a huge turnover of players across all teams. We'll just look through the pictures there we'll just look through the results, and we also went through the senior championship. In the intermediate championship, Ula 2-16 to 7-point winners over Knockany. Munger St. Paul's obviously lost the final last year, were 1-11 to 5-point winners over Father Casey's. In the Junior A Championship, Galty Gales 4-14, Grudy Gales 2-4, and then Adair 3-10 to 1-8 winners over Atay. And in the Junior B Championship, a lot of the second sides were winners, if not all. Looking at them, Monaghan second side beat St. Senan 6-11 to 9. Ula's second side were 2-21 to 1-7 winners over Jordan Griffins. St. Ailbe's B 2-13 to 1-8 winners over Palace Green, and Father Casey's second team 4-9 to 2-3 winners over Bylander's second team. That should be Bylander's B, not 2-3. Is there any results there, Matt, that really stood out from you from the lower down championships?
Yeah, I suppose the Junior A, there were two standout results there in that Galty Gales and Adair. There's great progress has been made in ladies football in those two clubs in recent years. I'd be slightly worried, Jack, looking at the composition of the Junior B Championship. And while it's laudable, and whilst I welcome Monaghan, Ula, St. Ailbe's, Father Casey's and Ballylanders putting in second teams, but I'm just wondering, are the strong getting stronger? I would prefer to see, if possible, new names coming in and new clubs being formed, because let's face it, we're in a growth period of ladies football, and I think the most recent addition to the ladies football family in terms of clubs, as it were, Jack, were Croom, who had a free weekend and will obviously be playing next the weekend after next. Obviously, the defending intermediate champions, they too had a free weekend from Bradford.
Yeah.
In that they had a bye. They're in the same group as Ula and Knockany. And again, they're very, very, very strong. Like if you look at the McCarthy sisters and the Cunninghams, and extremely strong. And Mungret St. Paul's, who were runners up last year in the intermediate, they're grouped with Maru Bohor, who should, Jack, who should, if you were to go by the number of players that are on the county squad, should be quite strong and be serious challengers for the intermediate championship. And Father Casey's, who again have made their way up through the ranks. But I would certainly, whilst I welcome with open arms and laud the clubs that go to the trouble of putting out second teams and putting them into competition, I would love to see new clubs coming on board and spreading the game, because the game is one of the fastest growing sports in the country.
Yeah.
It's growing at a absolutely phenomenal rate. And it has got a major, ladies football has, it's a game I love. And it has got a major boost this year with Meath winning the All-Ireland final.
Yeah.
And they did it the hard way. They beat Armagh, they beat Cork, they beat Dublin. In their last three games, there can be no arguments about it. About 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, I went over to a game in Martinstown, a Division 4 game between Limerick and Meath. Limerick led them all the way up to about 6 or 7 minutes from the end. And this is where they are now. Certainly the Meath blueprint and what they have achieved certainly gives hope to all counties.
Yeah, it gives.
I'm digressing from where we started, but I would certainly love if come the start of a championship, that there are 4 or 5 names there that weren't there before. Let them start down at the very bottom. Out of little acorns grow big trees, Jack.
Yeah.
So big oak trees. So that's the rant for today, Jack.
Yeah, I suppose the Meath success does give hope to all teams in all sports, and you're rightly said you'd like to see more teams. And this is what we have for the year, and it was an exciting opening weekend, and obviously there's a bye weekend now with Camogie, so we'll be looking forward to the second round games next weekend and also next weekend we have the return of the football. The hurling takes a break for a few weeks, so next weekend we'll be very busy again. And before we get on to predictions,
that's a good blueprint that Limerick GAA have as well. Like concentrating the hurling for a number of weeks and then on to the football. And like while we were all caught up in the hurling for the last couple of weeks, last night only, Jack, we had two county semi-finals. We had the semi-finals of the Premier Under-19 Football Championship, and we had win for Mungret St. Paul's over Monaleen. And a win for St. Patrick's over Father Casey's, which is
it's strange not to see Father Casey's into a final at the new minor grade, which is under 19. But
yeah, absolutely. But you'd have to say full credit to St. Pat's, and it's nice to see that Pats are in it. But it will tell you how smoothly, Jack, that the competitions are being run.
Yeah.
That here we are in such a short space of time that we're down to the final of the Premier Minor Football Championship, under 19 and Football Championship.
Yeah, look, there's so many competitions going on everywhere, Matt. It's so hard to keep track of them. Before we come on to our predictions, I have one more teaser, and then we can be finished with them. So if you don't buy a ticket after this, I don't think you'd buy a ticket for anything.
Oh, it's an automatic? Yeah. So just you have to put your leg on the brake now first. Yeah. That's it. No, just put it into the. Yeah. There you go. Oh, it's electric enough. Oh, for that.
James, is that your car?
No, Bar. It's the new Limerick GAA raffle car. Where can you get the tickets, Dave?
Get your tickets at www.winnikuga.ie. They're only €20. So, Rickling, who's going first? Go on, Sean. Go on. Lead us out. Right, go on. Well, Sean, €20 ticket.
Is the €20 putting into the boot?
Thanks to Lions of Limerick for their continued support to Limerick GAA.
It's nice to see Seamus Tunningham got the hang of driving the automatic electric car.
It was very, very interesting there to see him briefly confused by what was on the dashboard in front of him, because it gives him a sense now of how defences feel when he stops running at them. So, how confused they are.
It reminds you that they're humans as well at the end of the day, these all-conquering Limerick players. But I suppose we're into, probably, I find this the most enjoyable, going one-on-one with you, Matt, in the predictions round.
Yeah, you are, because you're winning, Jack. And
look, this is the standings at the moment. So you corrected more correct results than me. But Munger St. Paul's 5-point win, just a little tick underneath, just signifies that I corrected the points differential. They won by 5 points. I went for Ballybrown by 1. It looked to be good for a lot of it. You obviously went for Kilmallock. The ones we got wrong, you went for Knockane, I went for Marubohor. They drew, so I suppose we split that there. Both went for Glenrue against Newcastle West, and Newcastle West proved us wrong. But I suppose we're into the final set of hurling predictions, Matt. We went through all these games in depth earlier. There's some mouth-watering clashes. We'll start with Group 1.
I think I'll be looking for a steward's inquiry, Jack.
Why is that?
Or a recount.
We can do it now if you want. I have the pictures. Did you think you got one right?
No. I'm messing.
All right, sorry. I don't want to guard you, because I want to win fair and square. If that's
I have the utmost faith and trust in your integrity, Jack.
Yeah. And to find those all those results, there's a separate Twitter just for the podcast, at Treaty Talk. Lim will get you there. It's just where the podcast is, the video, the SoundCloud, the Spotify, all the links are there. If you want to follow it. the Piercing Ballybrown, we went through it there. We kind of both were kind of siding towards the Piercing. Are you going to double down on that and how much?
Yeah, I'm going by the Piercing by 4.
The Piercing by 4. I actually have the Piercing by 4 down here. I'll go the Piercing by 3, but no offense to the Piercing. I'd love to see a Ballybrown win after they went so close last week, but it does look like it's the Piercings to lose. Ahan, Doon, I'm going to say Doon by 8. Again, no respect to Ahan. It's just even without Barry Murphy, the firepower that Doon have is incredible.
I'm going by Doon by 4.
Doon by 4. And we'll leave KP there for a while. Gary Spillane versus South Liberties. Obviously, a win for South Liberties will see them through. Or do you think Gary Spillane can upset the odds? And do you think they can upset the odds to get, what was it, a 7-point win they need?
I don't, Jack. I don't. I think they won't. I'm going for Liberties by 5.
Liberties by 5. I'm going for South Liberties by 3. That will put them into the quarterfinal stage. And then the big one, Kildare Palace Kenry versus Adair.
I've thought an awful lot about this one. This is the humdinger.
Yeah.
I'm going with Adair by 3.
Adair by 3. My mind says Adair experience probably that bit better throughout the field, but I just have a feeling for Kildare Palace Kenry. And I went for Ballybrown last week and it nearly came off, so I'm going to go for Kildare Palace by a single point. But it's just a game. I'm not really too pushed by the outcome, just as long as we get a good game, and I'm sure we will get a good game. Judging by our predictions there, we will have Doon and the Piercing straight into the semi-finals, and we will have Kilmallock and Paxwell in the quarterfinals, with you're saying Adair and South Liberties. I'm saying KP and South Liberties. There's some mouth-watering games to come there regardless of the outcomes. But we could have, as we said, a relegation final of the Piercing versus Doon in the same token. So what we wanted at the start was to have no dead rubbers coming into the final round, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and we spoke about that last week, Jack, and we spoke about it in the context of the amount of dead rubbers that we had, going into the final round of the football. Thanks be to God, I was saying to myself and pensioning myself as the weekend progressed. Thanks be to God, we're not facing into that scenario. That apart from the group where Mona Lean have lost their 2 games, and Bruff have lost their 2 games, that there's still an awful lot to play for. The 4 games have been televised live, which is fantastic. But anyone that wants to get to games like this weekend, that wants to see hurling in the flesh, by God, Jack, they're spoiled for choice, because there are 4 Premier Intermediate games, 4 Intermediate games. There are 12 Junior A games. And the junior A competition, and because of the constraints of time, we just flipped over it. It really is hotting up now in the group. So that's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I was at KP and Mona Lean on Friday night, and I was obviously at Keaton versus Fianna Kilmeedy on the Saturday. And while there was obviously the difference in class level, there was a step up to Premier Intermediate. It was far more physical. It was a really intense game. So that Junior A Championship, if you can get out to any games, any of the games that are played in the Hurling or the Camogie this weekend, get out and go to them, because they're so much better. It's so good to get there. And obviously, if you can't, they're live on Limerick GAA TV. We had a comment.
It's not that terrible long ago, Jack, since there was the Junior A Championship, or the Junior Championship, was the second most important competition in the county.
Yeah.
Because the Intermediate Championships have had a checkered existence. And I'd be pretty familiar with this, because we won the county here in Glenroe. We won the county junior in 1974, and proposed a motion to the following convention that there would be an intermediate championship the following year, because we felt we weren't able to make the step up to senior, and it was overwhelmingly carried but it only lasted about 5 years because there were elements at the time that didn't like the idea.
Yeah,
So
we have it now, and we've two of them.
It was abandoned, and it had been there previously in the 30s, and it's back now, and it's back better than ever. And like we have seen how successful, in particular, that the Premier Intermediate Championship is.
Yeah, like there's the top 4 grades in Limerick Hurling are exceptional, and look, it's no surprise that since the advent of that Premier Intermediate Championship in 2014. We've won the Munster Minor that year, won the Under-21 All-Ireland the following year, got the Minor All-Ireland the following year after that, 21s All-Ireland, and 2 more since then. So I'm not saying it's all because of Premier Intermediate, but it's definitely developed Limerick Hurling. And nicely,
the secret of the success of competitions is to have as many players and teams as possible playing at their own level. And that's exactly what it does. It fills that gap.
Yeah, and a nice segue into the Premier Intermediate Championship. I suppose we'll start with the dead rubber that is Newcastle West versus Bruff. I'm going to go for Bruff on this one. I think just pride probably will come into Newcastle. Are true. They will want to finish with 3 points on top of the group, which they will. Anyways, they also have football the following week. I'm just going to side with Bruff here. Probably too awkward more than anything.
Yeah, I'm going with Newcastle by 2. Because I'm sure that I saw their game last weekend, and I was hugely impressed with Newcastle West, I have to say, Jack, not just because they beat Glenroe now, but I was impressed by a lot of things with them, because it looked as if the shackles were off, because they had won their first round game against Drummond at Lacka, and they were able to give it a good go. I was hugely impressed with the manner, and I spoke to you off air about this, that Aiton Hurley, how seamlessly he has made the transition from an underage player into an adult player. We all knew he had a future in the game. I would go further and say he has a big future in the game.
Yeah, he definitely does. Like in the same team as Adam English, and we've seen what Adam English has done on advent of the Limerick GAA TV. And if Newcastle West keep going the way they're going, they will be in the senior ranks sooner rather than later. We'll leave the other group game. There is Glenroe versus Drummond at Lacka, and obviously we've said winner takes all. Will your Glenroe get into a second consecutive semi-final, or will it be Drummond at Lacka?
Well, my record with Glenroe is awful.
And by the Landers as well.
I predicted they would be beaten by Bruff, and they won. I predicted that they would beat Newcastle West, and they lost.
If I was you, I'd be predicting them to lose and cut my losses, hoping that they win.
I'm predicting them to win by 2 points.
Glenroe by 2. I've Glenroe by 3. I saw them last year, and I think they're definitely in the top 4 now. Obviously, in a championship, a condensed championship like this, like you have to perform today. But I'm going Glenroe by. Sorry, you said Glenroe by
2.
I'm going Glenroe by 3. In Group 1, Mungo St. Paul's are topping the group regardless. They play Knockany, that still have a chance of going through. Will Munger make it 3 from 3, or can Knockany?
This one will be very tight, I think, Jack, and it has the potential for a surprise now, because Knockany are dogged battlers, but I think there's something about Mungret, this year that I think Mungret will see him off by about 3 points.
Yeah, I have no respect to Knockany. I have Mungret by 10. I just think they are that much better than teams, and I wouldn't be surprised if Knockany kept it very tight and even won. But I just think if Mungret catch fire like they did the first day, they can destroy teams essentially. And then Cappamore versus Maru Boher. Maru Boher I went for last week and they drew. I'm going to go for them again this week by 2 points. And if Mungret win and a Maru Boher win, would see Maru Boher through with them. How do you see this one going?
I'm going for Cappamore by 4.
Cappamore by 4. So you're reckoning it will be Mungret St. Paul's versus Glenroe in a repeat of last year's semi-final, and Newcastle West versus Cappamore in the semi-final. Yeah. I have it Mungret, Glenroe, and Maru Boher versus Newcastle West. Again, so many games to look forward to. There's a full list of intermediate championship games, Junior A hurling championship games. You'll find them on the website. Next week we'll return to football with both the men's and ladies. But I think that's probably enough for today, Matt. An hour and a half on the clock. We haven't missed anything, have we?
No.
And if we did, apologies. But many thanks to anyone that stayed tuned for the whole hour and a half or is listening back. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be in touch again soon. And if there's any details missing, you'll find them on the Sporting Limerick website or elsewhere. Matt, a huge thank you to you. There's a lot of Winnikuga stuff throughout it, so I think we'll finish with our regular intro and outro. So thanks again, Matt.
You're welcome, Jack.
Impression of the game you get out of it, what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for